Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, Brian. So it's almost Christmas when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Probably be after Christmas by the time you guys hear it. But for us today, it's a couple days before Christmas. So I was listening to Christmas music this morning and I heard this song called Christmas Magic. I never heard it before.
Okay.
I can't tell you anything about the song, but it made me think about magic. The magic of what we do and the magic of how little things can make a big difference in your business. So I want to talk a little bit about managing the magic of multiples.
The magic of multiples. You know, we do kind of talk about this in other different languages, not languages, but different phrases. Like we like to say like the law of large numbers,
Yes.
the law of averages, right?
Sure.
So this is kind of like the magic, similar approach, but magic of multiples.
Right. Because when you have more than one, then you get benefits. One doesn't carry everything. And then if you lose that one, you're in trouble, right? So let's talk about that in the case of multiple ASINs. What does having multiple ASINs as opposed to one or two ASINs do for us?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is it spreads our risk.
Spreads a risk.
Yeah.
That's very important, especially in the beginning when I'm taking money out of my pocket to put in. I want that to grow so that suddenly I am putting money that I've created into my business to grow it further and pay myself back for what I took out of my pocket.
You know, that sometimes is assumed, but there's so much, what's the word I'm looking for? Purchase. There's so much sovereignty in that exercise alone. Because you're taking those first however many months that you're taking money out of your own pocket to start the business.
Yeah.
But then after a while, the business funds itself and you get all your money back and then it grows more money. Right.
And then you start getting an income.
Right.
But it goes in increments.
Sure.
That doesn't happen day one.
No.
You have to get that first part done.
Yeah.
Then the next part. And then you get to the point where you're making an income. So go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, that's where I was going with it. I hit my point there.
Yeah. So the magic of multiple ASINs, there can be a lot to that.
So yeah, you get to spread your risk is one of the things. You also get...
You get to see different kinds of ASINs at work.
Exactly. In different categories of different brands. Like,
right.
We're not just going to, unlike, say, if we're going to launch our own private label brand, we're all about our own brand and we're just focused on that thing.
Right. But we're talking about a Replens business.
Yeah.
So we're talking about selling on existing listings the items that are already people already know, love, and trust. We are providing those to the customer by filling Amazon's shelves, essentially.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So the magic of multiple ASINs is one of the things that multiples does for us. I see you have here the magic of multiple sales. What does that mean?
Well, especially when we're first starting out, but continually for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that you need to do is begin to demonstrate and then continue to demonstrate your ability to have successful transactions on the Amazon platform.
Yes.
And the reason you need to do this is for Amazon to continue to trust you.
Correct.
And then give you all the benefits that, come along with having a successful account on the platform, to include ungating, automatic ungating. There's no paying a service. There's no buying 100 units. There's no any of that stuff. You basically have successful transactions and Amazon says, hey, we really appreciate you. Here's an ungating.
We think you know what you're doing now. We've seen enough of your work that we think we know it. Now, that happens at different times for different people. I can't tell you exactly how many sales that is. I can tell you that people who are consistent in their shipments and their testing and putting up things up for sale, that happens what I consider fairly quickly. But again, it's going to be different times of year. That does have to happen, though. In order for Amazon to start automatically lifting those restrictions, we got to build some trust with Amazon, and Amazon needs to know that we're taking care of their customers.
One of the other magic of multiples that comes to mind is we get a lot of newer sellers on the platform. People who
we get in coaching. That we work with.
People who are maybe changing gears a little bit and going from a private label to expand their business into the Replens space.
Yes.
And how many times a week do you get asked, or do you see the question asked even in the Facebook group?
Yeah.
Can someone show me how to find a profitable ASIN?
Yeah. And the answer is you're not looking for profitable ASINs. You're looking for test-worthy ASINs.
Aside from that.
Okay.
Aside from that whole high horse,
so
I'll say that you tend to get on there in a good way, is the power, the magic of multiples is that there's no magic to finding an profitable ASIN or an testable ASIN, right? You have to look at a lot of ASINs, the magic of multiples. You have to look at many ASINs. And so when people come in and say, how do I find a testable ASIN? How do I find a replenishable ASIN?
Or something that I'm even approved to sell.
Or how do I find something that I'm approved to sell? Step one, look at a lot of ASINs.
Step one, look at a lot of ASINs. I agree with that. Absolutely. And that is the most, I tell this to Kickstart groups all the time. If you're interested in Kickstart, which is where we can get you started with your first steps, silentjim.com/Kickstart. Come see us there. I wanted to mention what that was, but in Kickstart, we have brand new sellers. Often they've never sent anything to Amazon before. And one of the things that I tell them every time is the most underestimated thing that I see is how many ASINs you have to look at in order to find one that you're even approved to sell.
Yep.
Now, once you find a brand that you're approved to sell, then you dig in and you go find some more of that brand, and sometimes other brands follow. But that first one is the toughest. It is absolutely the toughest. So let it be that. Don't try to make it not. I haven't seen anybody yet who's so special that they found it in their first hour. I haven't seen it yet.
Right. But this is the biggest hurdle usually that people have to overcome.
Yes.
Looking at a lot of different ASINs, the multiples of ASINs that you have to look through to find the ones that are meeting whatever it is that you're looking for, approving the brand, testable, or even ones that pass the 3-step check, that pass your pre-flight inspection, yada, yada, do all that stuff. It seems like, and then when you find one, you're like, oh, if this is the way it is, and I have to look through 1,500 ASINs in order to find a handful, then maybe this isn't worth it.
Right.
But really, just by getting to that point now, you've put a lot of the hard work behind you, because now you can start focusing on what you learned in that process and start uncovering and rabbit trailing off of what is approved. And then it becomes much, much easier.
So, as you like to say, incremental progress. So that first one, that's going to be the hardest one. The next one's going to be pretty hard too. Maybe not quite as hard as the first one.
Yep.
And then it's going to continue to be hard for a little while until you build a book of business that you have to work with. But you're going to get better every time you do it. So maybe it takes a fewer ASINs to look at to find one that you can test.
Because you kind of know where to look.
I always look at Amazon, Keepa, who tracks over 1 billion ASINs on Amazon. The U.S. platform, Amazon's U.S. platform, Amazon.com, has over 1 billion ASINs. And we talk about that and how big of a number that is. So we have 1 billion ASINs. And if we looked at every one of those ASINs and took 1 second on each one, it would take us almost 32 years to get to the end of that list, which would never be the same. It was changing all the time. But that's a lot of ASINs. So when I tell you that you're approved to sell in a few categories with a few brands in those categories, and there are actually millions of ASINs in each of those categories, to find the ones in there, even if you could sell 100 of those or 100,000 of those, which you probably can, you just have to find them. But you're wading through 1 billion ASINs to get there. So you're going to have to keep digging in until you find a vein of gold. It takes a little bit of time that first time.
We can usually direct people, newer sellers, to the 5 or so categories that most new sellers are not gated in when they're first starting. Now, that's usually as far as we can say, go to this category, start with home and kitchen, start with pet supplies, not pet food, go sporting and outdoors, or whatever it is, sporting goods and outdoors.
But they may not be approved for most of the brands in those categories.
So you have to sort of hunt in there until you find the ones that you are approved for.
So one of the most underestimated things.
Yeah.
But multiple ASINs,
ASINs.
you got to get comfortable looking at a lot of ASINs.
I think the other thing that comes to mind for me is the power that you get with different types of ASINs.
Okay.
And this is, we were talking about it earlier, and I was kind of going to the golf club analogy, where you have a driver, which is the club that hits the ball the farthest.
Yes.
Right? But you don't play the whole game of golf with the driver.
That's right, because that would be silly.
I mean, you could. If you were crazy like Lee Trevino, you could play a whole round of golf with a 5-iron, right?
Yeah, but most of us are not Lee Trevinos.
Right, but most of us don't do that. You could do it. You probably just wouldn't score very well.
Right.
Right. And so this is why
I don't even think Lee Trevino scores that well.
Well,
okay. Anyway,
that aside, the whole point of this is that you have a different need. So you have a different club. I only need to hit it 15 yards. I don't need to hit it 350 yards. I need to get out of the sand, not hit it off of a tee. Right? I need to hit it out of the rough, not off of the fairway.
So you choose the right tool, as opposed to contortioning yourself into the right position to use a driver to hit on the green.
And this reminds me of the ASINs that we have in our Replens book of business. And I'm going to go back to some, just to paint the example correctly, I think, to some ASINs that you probably aren't going to see in the catalog anymore.
Right.
But there was a time, you've probably heard us tell this story before, where we had an ASIN, many ASINs, but this one was an absolute home run. I'm going to totally mix up our sports analogies here. Okay. Metaphors, our sports metaphors. We're going from golf to baseball.
Okay.
It was a home run.
Well, I'm sure football will be in here sometime today. It was a home run.
It was a virtual home run as far as ASINs go. It was awesome profit.
And we only sold, I don't know, 5 or 6 of those a month, I think. I don't think it was a really fast mover.
Well, we could sell as many as we wanted to of that, as many as we could get. The challenge was
we could only get
getting them, and B, the side effects of that one particular ASIN. Okay. This was like a driver. Challenge. This was the driver because it was big. You could only fit 2 in a medium Home Depot box. And if my whole inventory was made of that one item, I would have struggled long term because I can't get enough of it. It costs way, I couldn't build my whole business model around that one home run product.
And because you have a hook off the tee, so using that driver is risky.
It depends on the day. Hook, slice.
So, it's rarely down the middle of the fairway, right?
And if it is, you can take money to the bank that the next shot is going to stink. Okay.
Yeah, that's what happens in golf. Anyway, back to...
Then we have other ASINs, right? So that's a big one. It's big. It's like the driver. Then we have other ASINs that are like the size of this pen. Okay. Really light, really small, don't take up a lot of room. On its own does not make that much money. It's absolutely not a single.
Right.
It's not a home run. It's a single.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe even a bunt.
Yeah. Okay. Gives me some progress, but doesn't necessarily give me points.
But if I mix these two things
keeps the game going.
If I mix these two things together, that's where the real power of this business comes into play. So I have got this big bulky item that I can put into a box. Only 2 of them fit in a box. So I have all this empty space, and then I can fill in around the edges with my smaller items.
Yeah.
So let's just take and make the overall profitability of my business much better for multiple reasons that we've covered in the past. But let's talk for a minute about why would I even consider selling this pen at a bunt or a single?
Right. You mean like break even?
Break even or very little profit?
Very little profit.
Yeah.
I would absolutely consider it for a couple of reasons. One, because I can spread that inbound shipping over many items as opposed to put it all on that big item. So then I can make my big item be even more profitable, more powerful.
Yep.
Another reason I would do that is because a lot of people have minimums at their prep centers. We use people that are friends and family to do ours, but we got to keep them busy. We got to keep them interested. We got to keep them on, focused on our stuff. And in order to do that, we have to keep them busy or it's not worth it to them and they'll go find something else to do. So if we can at least break even and help them stay busy, it's worth it.
We've got a system to run.
Right.
Okay. We've got an enterprise, right? Not unlike Walmart. And I was making a joke earlier today, like, what do you think Target feels when they look at the Walmart website? can you believe they're selling that? How can they sell that for that price?
How can they sell that for that price? I'm losing money. I don't even know where they get it.
Right. But what Walmart needs is they also have home runs in their store.
They do.
And in order to actually sell the home runs, they need eyeballs. So they put things that they don't make money on in the store to bring people in to buy the home runs.
That's right. And they've got to keep their store open while they're waiting for people to come in and buy those home runs. They've got to pay their people, whether they're making sales or not. So these ones that they can turn over and just break even on are valuable to them because it keeps the machine running.
We say break even, but break even includes all of your costs.
Right.
For Walmart.
So you're not losing any money.
For Walmart, that would be like their rent and or mortgage, whatever it is, plus all their salaries, plus all the expenses. And then they can sell something that helps them break, that item breaks even. Great. That's awesome. Same thing in our business.
Right.
Do I really love sending in things that break even? No.
No.
I only do it when I have to, but I have the ability to do that.
I agree. I just, it occurred to me that we were talking about Mark McGwire's situation. And so Mark McGwire, most of you probably know he was a home run king and he made records and everything hitting these home runs. But getting the most value out of Mark McGwire hitting a home run was to have the bases loaded when he get up. So then he, instead of getting 1 point because he knocked it over the fence and he gets to run the bases, you get 4 points because everybody else hit a base hit.
Yeah.
He brings them all home. That's 4 points. That one hit is worth 4 points now. So we can enhance how much profit. So in the case of the paper plate bundle.
We didn't ever call out what it was, but it was paper plates. Like it was this pyramid of paper plates. Yeah.
Yeah, this huge wieldy thing. We can take that and put it in a box, but we can put some other players in there who are not getting home runs, but they can get on base. They can make the sale for us, get us that point with Amazon, and spread out our risk, spread out our inbound shipping costs, and make that bundle, that huge thing that we had to put together, worth that much more.
Yeah. Right.
That much more profit because the inbound shipping was a little less.
A couple of things come to mind on that. One, I can imagine the look on the faces of the people who are helping us with the prep and ship. If we said, we're only going to do this paper plate bundle, so this is all you got to do. They would quit, right? Because it's not a fun one to do, right? And then the other thing is...
And you can't do enough of them to make it worth my while, right?
Of course, we're...
By itself.
Right. We couldn't get enough of it. And even if we could, it was big, it was heavy, take a lot of space. Just not an ideal product to build my whole business around. An ideal product to have in the mix, for sure.
Absolutely, because there was some profit in there that covered a whole lot of other things that we were doing that was worth it. Now, we don't do that anymore. And once you get a book of business, we don't do that particular ASIN anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's legal anymore. But once you get a book of business and you have a mix of ASINs, you're starting to look at averages now. Now, my average sales price is this. My average inbound shipping is this. My average profit is this. And that takes all kinds of ASINs to create that mix. So don't forget that you're just building that in the beginning. Your first few ASINs are just the very, very bit of a start on that.
The other thing I was thinking, in addition to the look on the faces of the people who are prepping and packing for us, is what if you had a whole baseball team just of Mark McGwires? On the surface,
I can think of so many problems with that.
Well, but on the surface,
Oh, yeah.
I would love that. Every person who comes up to bat, or, every time up to bat, it's Mark McGwire. So I have, let's just go with the averages, right? The law of averages.
Right.
335 is probably his average, 325, something like that.
Okay.
So I know that at least if he bats 3 times a game, one time he's going to be successful in his attempt.
Right.
Okay.
He doesn't play anymore, but if he were, yeah.
Right. So my whole team of Mark McGwires then seems like at least every third time up to bat, I would be having a successful transaction.
Right.
But now, what if when he doesn't get a successful transaction and all the Mark McGwires have to go play the field?
Aha. Oh.
Now you've got Mark
Mark
McGwire not
McGwire
only
wasn't so good at the field.
not only on first base, but right field, center field, left field, shortstop, third base, pitching, do all, right.
Catching.
If your whole team was just Mark McGwire's on the other side, then that's not going to work out so well, because what's going to happen? That team is going to get scored on a lot. And then the power of Mark McGwire is not going to be able to keep up. Even if every single player on that team was Mark McGwire, they're not going to be able to keep up.
Exactly. So we
need a mix.
We want to make Mark McGwire more profitable than he already is on the face. And we want to make sure we have all the other bases covered. You see what I did there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing about having all those Mark McGwires on one team is it's very expensive up front to hire a Mark McGwire.
You're right.
You might run out of capital doing that.
You're right.
Another thing I think of is that there aren't that many Mark McGwires in the world.
You're right.
Can I find a whole baseball team full of them at the same time?
Yep.
In the same year?
And even if you
on
could,
the same team?
Could you afford to pay them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things wrong with that. So let's back up and let's put a mix in there. And then all of a sudden, Mark McGwire becomes way more valuable in and of himself and makes the rest of the team more valuable.
Yes, exactly. And he has a position to play. And this actually led into the thought process of the next thing I want to talk about, which is the Moneyball scenario. We're going to stick with baseball here, right? Okay. So let me just paint the picture for you real quick, just to set the premise here. Moneyball was a style of baseball that was practiced by the San Francisco Giants. I don't remember exactly when it was, but that
they made a movie about it.
They did, yeah. That strategy focused on lesser known, lesser valued metrics than the traditional home run, batting average, and star power kind of metrics.
These undervalued things that you get plenty of if you have consistency, and they do it every time. The one home run doesn't count as much.
And it allowed them to do that with a very, very small salary base.
Yes.
Right? Because the players
those guys didn't demand that kind of money.
Exactly. The players who don't hit 40 home runs a season, the players who don't steal 30 bases a season, the players who don't do all those things, but they do some other undervalued things really well, they cost a heck of a lot less.
Right.
And this is, I think, similar, at least
they're not flashy.
We can make the metaphor of the comparison between Moneyball and a Replens business.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so I took a couple of notes on that. I'm going to refer to my notes real quick.
Okay.
The Replens and the magic of multiples allows you to start with a limited budget. This is exactly what a team...
How many people do we work with that have a limited budget?
I know.
Or who don't want to put all, even if they have money, they don't want to put it all in yet.
Right.
Or they don't have anything to spend it on yet.
Okay. Right. And this is what Moneyball did too. Like, you didn't have to spend a lot of money. You could field a competitive team with a very, very reasonable salary base. Okay. The other one is that they leverage undervalued metrics, such as on-base percentage. For us, and I got to give you all the credit here, one of those...
Well, of course you do. What am I getting credit for?
One of those undervalued metrics is capital protection that we talk a lot about in the 3-step check, right? It's so undervalued. And even if all you did was send in testable ASINs that had capital protection, regardless of what the upside looked like, your chances of winning are much higher than those folks who are focused on the flashy, brand name, luxurious, status
80%
building.
ROI only.
120%, whatever it is.
It takes you a long time, not a lifetime, but it takes you a long time to find, and you're giving up these others.
Just like trying to build the team of Mark McGwires.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's very expensive up front, and it takes a long time to find them, if they even that many of them exist.
Right.
So the way I like to explain that is, we got two things going on here. We want to test what we can, as long as we have a good chance of at least getting all our money back. right? Because we get so much benefit from that.
Yep.
We get points with Amazon. I want that point with Amazon.
We get experience.
We get experience. We get a chance for a customer to give us good feedback. There's so many benefits.
We get to keep our people
just to
paid.
breaking even. We get to keep our people paid. Exactly. So when you break even, don't be sad about that, especially when you're building your foundation, because eventually your averages will be good enough that those break even ones don't affect you that much.
Right. And then the third thing that Moneyball does that is very similar to the Replens game is focus on efficiencies and consistency over flashy, gaudy numbers.
Right.
Efficiency and consistency. We talked about consistency a lot.
Do we now? And frequency.
Right? Consistency is doing it, on a regular pattern. The frequency of how fast you're doing that. So there's consistency. And then there's confrequency, right? So let's focus on those ones that maybe they're you basically
turn and turn.
They make a little bit of money. They keep you in the game, and then every so often, and especially more times than not, after you gain some experience, you're getting much more bang for those than you do in the early days.
Right, but you got to play every inning.
You do have to play every inning, every at bat.
Every at bat, exactly. You have to walk up there and swing the bat. Even if you're just going to swing the bat, get on first base, or not score at all, you have to do that in order to get through the lineup to get your big hitter in there.
That's right. You play the game for when the opportunities arise for you to hit a home run. You play the game when the opportunities arise for you to do a play fake and throw the long bomb for a touchdown. You set up.
New football would come in here.
I know. You set up the whole game for these opportunities like, oh, this is exactly what we're looking for. We have the defense in the right position, or the field, the outfield is in the right position, or on the football field, they're in the right position. You've got the right players on the field. You've got the right play called, and you go, oh, this is going to be a home run.
Yeah.
This is going to be a touchdown.
Exactly. And there's no guarantee that it will be, but you have a really good chance. Since you brought football into it, It makes me think of those undervalued players, right? Star quarterback. Man, you get a star quarterback in there right out of college. He's, the number 1 draft pick, and he can do some damage, especially since nobody's seen him before. Nobody's, been able to see a lot of tape on him. He can do some damage. However, he cannot do it by himself. I know you think he needs to be able to throw it to somebody. Absolutely, he does. But the undervalued part, I think, of an offensive team is that front line that protects that quarterback and allows him to throw that ball. You have to have your other players in place, or when he gets hurt, the game's over.
Yeah. Or when that exact situation comes around and you have your sort of smaller running back in there that's threatening some other play that you're not really going to exercise, but is so key on that one play that guy makes a block on the defensive end. Otherwise, the whole play falls apart. And this is basically, you wouldn't even know this guy's name probably. Right? He's not a star. He's not the whatever, but he's carrying out a task that is critical to
he's not making touchdowns. Right. He's not making huge yardage plays, but he's making sure that the team can have success.
Now, when this situation comes up,
yes,
where everything is lined up and you're like, oh, this is an opportunity for us to really put some points on the board.
Yeah.
See, that's universal. Baseball or football or soccer.
Very good. Very good.
Put some points on the board.
Or whatever you call football.
It's not about the game time nearly as much as it is about the practice that took place all that time before.
You're absolutely right.
Right. When we think about playing sports, and I want to equate this to business too, the amount of time that we spend engaged in the activity, the majority of it is in the practice, not in the game. Right?
That's absolutely true. Playing an instrument, same way.
Yeah. It's
knitting, knitting's got to come in too. Knitting, same way.
Right.
The majority of the time you're spent learning how to do a stitch, practicing that stitch, practicing that cast on, whatever it is, practicing your scales when you're playing the piano, practicing, practice camp for football.
Practicing testing your ASINs.
They throw the ball. What do we see for the kicker? Right? He's got one job. He needs to get that ball through the uprights every time, right? The extra point kicker, right? Mm-hmm. So what do we see when it's coming up and it looks like we're in field goal range? What do we see on the sidelines? That kicker is kicking into that net, into that net, kicking in. Same with baseball.
Mm-hmm.
What do we see in the dugout or the what do you call that? Where the pitchers?
Yeah, the bullpen.
The bullpen. They're out there throwing that ball. Do they get any points for throwing that ball? No. But when they get up in the game to get ready to throw the ball, then they've done it enough. They know what they're doing. Practice.
See, this is it's because it's in those two examples, it's the mechanics. You're just, warming up and getting those mechanics really grooved in so that when it is time to execute in game, then you just follow those mechanics. Same thing in the business, man. A lot of what we do here is mechanics.
Yeah,
this is like we're sourcing. Well, we've talked about this before. We're sourcing, we're shopping, we're prepping, shipping, pricing, all the things, right? Replenishing and administrative overhead or
business acumen.
Business acumen, yeah. But we have to practice those things so that when Mark McGuire shows up and the bases are loaded, man, we're ready.
All in our position. We all know that everybody's going to hold their row. And that's what it is. When you're first starting, it's tough, but it does become a lot more mechanical. For us to source now, it's ingrained. We go sit down and we do what we do. That can happen for you too if you practice it. We've looked at thousands and thousands of ASINs with each other, with ourselves, with clients. I mean, we have a real superpower in getting to see a lot of different clients that we work with and their businesses as well in the coaching program. But practice is important, and we can't make points every time we throw the ball, but we still need to throw the ball so that we can make more points when we do.
When the right opportunity shows up.
Right,
So I really like the comparison of the Replens business to Moneyball because it aligns so closely with what we're trying to do here.
Right.
And it's not about the flashy.
Nope.
We can we can have a highly successful business without having anything flashy going on there.
Absolutely.
And
I would say we really don't have much flashy in our business ever.
No, we don't.
There are a few things in there that come up once in a while, but
like right now during Q4, we sell some things that we don't sell any other time of the year, but that's just to put a little extra, put the cherry on the sundae.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
I do have a quote. How did you know?
Lucky guess. Speaking of practice, how many times have we done this? And you've always had a quote. So
we've done it a few times. All right, here's a quote. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. This quote from Abraham Lincoln.
That guy was pretty smart.
It's not just the reason it really resonates with me is it's a perspective thing.
Yes.
Right? And same thing for you. Like when you say flip it upside down a lot when we're showing people how to do the sourcing and evaluation process and all that, flip it upside down. This is exactly the flip it upside down scenario.
Look at it from a different perspective because it can feel more successful than what you're allowing right now if you just look at it a different way.
Yeah.
So that's very good. That's very good. All right. So when we only have the undervalued players and we're looking to fill up our team and make sure all the bases are covered, what do we got to do?
Test more ASINs.
Let's go test more ASINs.
We have to test more ASINs. All right. We're going to do cups or fists?
Yes.
Here we go. Cups.
All of the above. Cheers, everybody.
See you soon.
Hey, before we let you go, we've got a special segment that we do here once per week with our good friend Jeff Schick from jeffschick.com. He is a legal and policy expert for all things Amazon, Walmart, and e-commerce. And we're excited to have another unique perspective from Jeff this week. So Jeff, what do you got for us this week?
So we're actually switching gears from Amazon. We're going to talk about Walmart. So it's, Walmart's the new thing that people are going towards and selling on for e-commerce. I do tell people I think it's the next frontier. If you don't have a Walmart account yet, I highly advise getting it. So far, they've been adding thousands of Chinese sellers a month to the platform. And the reason why I say you should go ahead and get it is not because they're adding Chinese sellers. It's because, like all things that Chinese sellers get involved with, it's just going to get ruined for everyone else. So what I mean by that is right now it's a registration process. It used to be an application process where you put an application, wait a couple weeks, they come back and they call you, they ask some questions, and then if they think that you're a good fit, they would give you access to the platform and you'd have your account. That's what it was like when I signed up in 2017. About a year or two ago, they switched to a registration process. That was actually, I guess it was October of 2022. So it's about 2 years ago, where you could actually just go on to walmart.com, click register, and you'd get an account number. And you just had to go through the onboarding and meet some of their qualifications. The reason why I say that this is important is because with the rise of Chinese sellers, and we're seeing an increase in infringement and black hat tactics and things like that, there's a very good likelihood that they're going to switch back to an application process to try to secure the marketplace a little bit better. So if you want to avoid the application process and just go ahead and get an account now, it's beneficial because you get your account number, you get it established. So far, what I've experienced is that it stays active even if you don't sell anything. So every time I log in, which is like once every few weeks, it still says on my Amazon or my Walmart account, active in good standing, even though I haven't sold anything since 2017. So it's so very worthwhile. Now, alongside that, I promised you guys some information about what we're seeing. We are seeing Walmart suspensions. So we've had about 5 sellers suspended on Walmart so far this year. We've gotten all of them back. So 100% success rate, which I'm proud of. And it just goes to show that Walmart is still, really a new platform that's easy to work with because they're still giving people second chances on certain things. Number one thing we're seeing people suspended for, though, has to do with inventory management. And so a lot of sellers are using inventory management software and they might not understand all the settings. And so they're, either they're pricing things inappropriately, like we had someone accidentally sell things for $1, and they were like expensive items. They went in, they canceled all the orders, and then got suspended for high order cancellation rate. That was, so then we wrote an appeal and got them reinstated. But if you're using inventory management software that sets pricing, make sure that it's set up properly because you can't just go in and cancel orders because you sold things too cheaply. That's a violation on Walmart. Similarly, if you're using inventory management software, you want to make sure that it's accurately updating. So, it should be linked properly so that your inventory is the same across Amazon and Walmart. So if you are a merchant fulfilling stuff for Amazon FBM and Walmart fulfillment, you want to make sure that if you have 5 units in stock and you sell 1 on Amazon, that you're now go down to 4 on Walmart and Amazon. Where that becomes a problem is sometimes the software will still show 5 on Walmart. And then if you go in and sell 5, you've oversold. And then that order counts as an order cancellation. And again, just like if you price too high, we've had, 3 sellers get suspended this year just for selling items they didn't actually have in stock because their inventory of software was wrong. So we're able to get them back, but it'd be better to not be suspended in the first place.
Have you noticed that the process is pretty similar to Amazon from a Walmart side, or is it easier, more difficult? How is that from an account health perspective on your end?
Very, very similar to how Amazon used to be. So it's very, there was some speculation that Walmart had hired a bunch of Amazon representatives to manage their suspension practice. And it probably is true because how they act is how Amazon used to be in the back in the old days. So the process is refreshingly simple compared to before. You just have to be able to accurately identify the issue and come up with corrective actions. That they're really big on their corrective actions. So you can't just say like, I'll do better. You actually have to say, I'm going to do better by doing X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, sub bullet points, I, 2, 3, and so forth. They really want a lot of detail on what you did wrong and how you're going to fix it. But if you can identify that and fix it, they're willing to give people second chances.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, as you mentioned, for anybody that's interested in opening up their Walmart account now, they should go and check that out. Also, we've got the Walmart course within this community is at provenamazoncourse.com/Walmart. If you're interested in seeing some of the content and community for that. But yes, Jeff, you do specialize in all things, whether it's Amazon or Walmart or other e-commerce platforms. So if you're interested in looking at Jeff for his retainer services for Walmart and Amazon, go ahead and check out jeffschick.com. That link will be in the show notes if you need to access it there. Jeff, thanks so much for being here this week. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Sounds good. You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.